Back for the first time in 2024, it's the House of the Checkered Shirts. Hello, once again, I am Tempest, your host of the SmackDown Review Podcast here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel, and I am joined, as always, by the lovely and wonderful Sat E. Niangi. It's Satty Day, it's Satty time. Sat, what's cause and all this?
Before we begin, let's... It's the first one of 2024.
And it was good.
Tempest.
Sat?
The question is, on yesterday's SmackDown, what's causing all this?
I was going to say that. He's ahead of me. He's on it today, folks.
Yes.
Yes, of course, it was Nick Aldis that got things rolling on this here episode of SmackDown, which we are going to get into because the Bloodline was none too pleased about what happened on last week's show. I missed you too. Aw.
Never leave me. Unless you're taking me with you and my brood and my family.
Yeah, you'd enjoy Canada in the winter, you think?
Maybe not, but I will not express my displeasure openly.
I'll take it.
Yes.
I think if you had any displeasure about SmackDown, you should express it openly. In the comments down below, perhaps. Not about this podcast, only positive things. That's the compliment section down there. Make sure that you let us know how fantastic this podcast is in the comments down below. And make sure, yeah, I got a Swerve shirt now. Thank you to the wonderful Holly Musgrave for the very lovely Christmas gift.
Thank you, Holly.
Yes. We're going to talk about this here, SmackDown. So make sure you like this video, give it a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It's a SmackDown podcast. We got to get into it.
He's back, guys.
Yeah, buddy.
I want to squeeze him. Gosh, I've missed him. Like, everyone else I've covered has been great. But, like, listen, man, when the guy is back, the guy is back. Look at this. Beautiful masked man. He's back. And he's going to tell you what happened to SmackDown. Something about Bloodline hijacking the show?
Yes. So we opened SmackDown with what we thought was going to be a match. We were told that Grayson Waller was coming out to have a match with Cameron Grimes. Now, that does not immediately seem like the most exciting opening match that you could potentially have on SmackDown, but sure, opening match with two young guys, I'll go with it. But no, it was not to be, as the Bloodline comes down and attacks Cameron Grimes mid-entrance, like a geek. And they go in the ring, and Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are like, nah, man, we're good. We don't need this fight. And they leave. They're happy to take the no contest or non-match or whatever it is. And Paul Heyman gets on the mic, and he says that the Bloodline are not the bad guys here. The bad guy is that James Bond wannabe Nick Aldis.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Suave.
Yeah, sophisticated, martini shaken, not stern. I got a baddie at home who's now the new creative director and something else for OVW. Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. Also, here's a fun fact. I used to date somebody whose grandfather was named James Bond.
Yo, that's dope.
Not named after the book or anything.
No,
just
no.
happened to be named James Bond, and then James Bond became like the coolest character of all time. So,
James Bond.
Anywho.
Bond. Yes.
We then continue, because I really liked Nick Aldis in this segment. Nick Aldis comes out. He was interacting with Cameron Grimes in the entranceway, so he was within earshot. But he comes down to the ring, and he gets on the apron. And Paul Heyman's not happy about a fatal four-way match. He's not happy about LA Knight, He's not happy about AJ Styles. He's not happy about Randy Orton, all getting a shot at Roman Reigns, which he said was practically guaranteed to result in a new undisputed Universal World Champion. So, while I do not think that is the case, that is what they're pitching to us. They're really trying to get across that these stakes are high. And Nick Aldis then steps on the apron, and he takes Paul Heyman's mic, and Solo Sikoa is about to do something about it. Paul Heyman's like, no. Calm down. It's okay. And Nick Aldis says, the Bloodline ruining SmackDown and ruining matches on SmackDown is not going to be a trend because they've done it twice in the last 2 weeks, and they are not going to do it again. The Fatal 4-Way match is a done deal. It's not changing. And in the main event of this show here tonight, you are going to get Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight teaming together against the bloodline of Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa, and Roman Reigns. This gets a big response because Roman Reigns doesn't work SmackDown. Certainly didn't work SmackDown in Lincoln, Nebraska.
LOL.
I don't do no jobs in Battle Creek, Michigan, brother. I only go to the big cities like Detroit. Anyway, Roman Reigns is in fact not there, which Paul Heyman lets Nick Aldis know. And in the middle here is a really great little character moment. Because my favorite part of this whole interaction that they had was just Nick Aldis not stepping down, not backing down from this blight on his authority.
Insubordination.
This insubordination. He says that that's what's going to happen. And Paul Heyman tries to take the microphone back from him. And Nick Aldis does not relinquish the microphone. And Paul Heyman's screaming off mic, "Give me the microphone." And he won't do it. Great little touch. Really good little character bit. And so Paul Heyman then is forced to walk up to the mic, which Nick Aldis is still holding, and saying that Roman Reigns isn't there. And that Nick Aldis will then have to, not do that. And Nick Aldis tells him, no, you're either going to find another partner or it's going to be a handicap match. Easy peasy. That's the opening segment. And then, of course, later we got the main event, which we will get to in just a little bit. But I really, really liked Nick Aldis in this segment. Everything else I thought was fairly by the books.
Of course.
You know, this was a fine promo. We're still a few weeks out from the Royal Rumble. There wasn't a whole lot to this. It was just, we're upset. And then they got booked in a tag match against the pay-per-view challengers in the main event. That's pretty standard wrestling stuff. But the real positives I was able to pull out of this was Nick Aldis. And I don't know if it's just because I have been forced to sit through authority figures in WWE for I don't even know how long that I have not found one that I have enjoyed.
Jack Tunney is his favorite because he's Canadian. Lol.
Stop it. But Nick Aldis is actually, to me, the best authority figure WWE has had in a long time.
Since Mick Foley's commissioner? Because you have to think about it. Mick Foley rarely had moments you're like, he wasn't good as an authority figure. Do you know what I mean? He stood up for himself in the Attitude Era when you needed someone.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. No,
yeah.
All
the 2016 run.
All the sequels never lived up to you. You know, 2001 and the 2004 briefly. It was because remember Austin was gone again. Foley took over the Bischoff feud, and exactly. He's come back many times. Hasn't really worked out.
Doesn't work as well.
Yeah,
but. Outside of my other favorites would probably have had to have been shut up. It's William Regal in NXT.
Yeah.
If you're counting NXT, obviously. But Regal, and even still, Regal on Raw was good stuff. But beyond that, Teddy Long on SmackDown was always respectable. Paul Heyman on SmackDown was good fun. But we're still talking about the 2000s here. And through the 2010s.
Angle? Did you enjoy Angle and Raw? Or was this the meme?
He was fine until he was put on probation or whatever it was,
What about his 04 SmackDown run with Luther Reigns wheeling him around?
I try and block out a lot of various times of 04 from my memory.
Hide and rack is the main reason why, guys.
Yeah. But WWE's authority figures have very, very rarely been allowed to stand up to wrestlers if the wrestlers are heels. Because, you can't make them look small. You can't make them look diminutive. You can't do that. But it has resulted in the authority figures just being bumbling fools for years and years and years and years. And of course, the other option there has been you either then get a heel authority figure who's just going to ruin the show every week for a decade.
Yep.
And that was kind of where we were stuck between. And now we found just this guy who's come in and he's confident in himself and he's not going to be Roman Reigns is going to be upset. Oh, God. And it's very refreshing.
I think, okay, but there's a main reason why. if you stripped off his suit, his shirt and tie, he's a jacked man. So it'll be a role that he can't convincingly. He probably can play a weasel, but I feel like the reason why you are having such a great time enjoying this, I'm enjoying it too, is because it's not the monotonous Bloodline stuff we got from last year. Because one of the issues we've been having with the Bloodline storyline is that it jumped the shark a long time ago. It's retreating old storyline beats that we already passed by, already resolved. And if we still had Adam Pearce, it would have been annoying because it would have been Adam Pearce cowering down to Paul Heyman and the Bloodline. But you have someone that's standing up to them. And what I like about this attack that happened in the first match, kind of like a TV show, that attack on Cameron Grimes had consequences to the main event if people are not thinking about it. If the Bloodline weren't such bullies, who knows who could have stepped up to team up with them later? I like the fact that it had consequences. Attacking Cameron Grimes had indirect consequences to what happened later. And Nick Aldis even said it. He said a great line to Paul Heyman, "You mistaken and you think we're equals." He said that to him, and he proceeded to show him by not giving back the microphone, because that is relinquishing power. That's like almost like a metaphorical thing. It's like, this microphone, there's power in the hands of Paul Heyman. And there's also power in the hands of an authority figure like Nick Aldis, who's very understated. We yet to hear what entrance music he has. My guy just appears out of nowhere. I've never seen him come out from the Titantron stage to the ring. He just halfway is already there. Do you know what I'm saying? Even when the attack happened, I didn't see him come out. He could have come from the side or from the crowd. He just appears out of nowhere. And he's is a refined gentleman. And he's almost like the complete opposite of the way Paul Heyman is. Paul Heyman's very bullyish and he's very in your face. And he's the kind of guy, he's very calculated and can be cold. And still my favorite line when he said to Roman, he goes, "I'm management. I don't have feelings." And you're seeing it. It's kind of like, you can see that this guy is stone cold, like in his job role. And I'm enjoying it too, because it's good to see someone good at their job. It's good to know that we might not even see Vince McMahon come out and browbeat him, because that's what tends to happen. You get general managers good at their job, wherever it is, and you get Stephanie McMahon or wherever just browbeating, or even Triple H. But I'm not worried that there's gonna be a monkey paw of someone later on, usurping the authority. So at the moment, I'm enjoying what we're seeing with Nick Aldis.
Yeah. I think ultimately, because I'm sure someone could interpret some of the things that we are saying as like, well, do you want the wrestlers to, be made to look foolish or not? Because no, it to me is more important that the people on your show look competent. It wasn't that necessarily everyone involved was, belittling the wrestlers or belittling the authority figures or whichever version. It's just that the people in authority always seemed totally incompetent. Why is Sonya Deville burying Naomi 6 months in a row? We never found out. Why is Stephanie McMahon happy to have John Cena miss WrestleMania 30, like she said in that promo? That doesn't make any sense. You shouldn't want that. You should want all your stars on your big show, idiot. Whereas now, finally, it feels like we have an authority figure that just knows what he's doing. And that doesn't need to be loud or flashy or make big moves or anything like that. I just need to feel like when the authority figure walks on the scene, someone's got a handle on the situation a little bit.
Like Jack Tunney.
Like Jack Tunney.
You know what? Yeah, I make jokes about Jack Tunney. He did make questionable decisions in 1992, but we'll talk about that some other time. Yep. Maybe on Patreon one day. Have me on, and I talk a lot about Jack Tunney because he was my WWF president growing up as a child. So my mom even talks about it like he was the actual president. That's how much kayfabe was running rampant back in the days. But yes, moving along swiftly, what do we have next?
Well, moving along swiftly, because this was, of course, the thread that tied the rest of the show together. It was the Bloodline looking for a potential third member for this main event match. And I'll let you know right now, they never found one. So there were loads and loads of these little segments throughout the show. And they were accompanied by a lot of backstage segments on this show. So I think we're just going to go through this show in real time, because that was the hijacking of it, and I think it just makes sense to go through this show chronologically, and we don't usually get to do that, so why not?
New year, new Tempest format.
Yeah, chronological order. So, The Bloodline are then immediately shown backstage after a commercial, and Jimmy's freaking out over not having a partner, and Heyman said that he's going to go handle it. He's going to go get somebody to join the Bloodline. He has all these connections, and he walks off, and Jimmy's like, Solo, ain't you worried? And Solo's like, I'm never worried. He's like, okay, that's cool, but Jimmy's still freaking out. We then actually got our first match. First match of the show is Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza going against Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. So there were a number of points that I had about this match in particular, because I thought a lot of the action in the match was quite good. Doesn't surprise me. They work in exciting style. There were also some like really creative little spots, like when Angel Garza, all he had to do to cut off Cruz del Toro's shine was to just open the ropes a little bit as he hit them, causing him to fall to the outside, break up his momentum, and allow the heels to get the heat. I liked that sort of stuff very, very much. I thought it was good wrestling. Problem is, I didn't think this Nebraska crowd cared about a lot on this show. They were fairly quiet for the most part, and this was not one of the things that they cared about. And I don't want to particularly blame them for this match in particular. Other matches on the show, we might disagree. But this one, WWE just has not done enough with Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde to make them credible, to make people believe in them. And it's just too difficult to go out on national TV in front of a large audience as a babyface that no one believes in.
Also, I'm going to ask a question. Anyone from Nebraska, do you guys even see Lucha Libre? If not, I understand why you feel the way you do. But Lucha Libre is sick. Lucha Libre is great. To go off what you're saying, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, two talented individuals who have not been given a thing called character development. Who are these guys?
Or even wins.
Wins, yeah. Nothing.
Like, before I can even care about them as people, like, do I think they're going to win the match? No.
No. They're here to eat pins. And because, no offense, at the moment, the wrestlers with the most potential are indeed the two Humberto Garzas. Because I did that to Pete last week. Do you know what Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo's real names are?
Yeah.
You do, right? Mm-hmm. They're both called Humberto Garza. Two cousins called Humberto. Guys, go look it up on Wikipedia or Google. They both have the same real first paternal last names, because in the Latin culture, they both have maternal and paternal surnames. But their paternal surnames is the same, and the first name is the same. They both named Humberto Garza. Sorry I have to hijack this part, but I'll never get over two cousins named the same after their granddaddy. I'll never go over that.
It is kind of wild. It's like Hector Garza or something got like split into two people.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yes,
like the original. No, Humberto Garza got split into two people, and each of them got to keep half of the name.
Yes,
you know, there was a science experiment at the WWE Performance Center.
I like to hear what they call each other.
Yeah.
Barto, at the minute, split the name in the middle. But yes, I'm happy that the former Los Lotharios is back on SmackDown. When they went to NXT, I was kind of disappointed because I felt like it was a step backwards. I would see if a wrestler goes back to NXT, time's ticking, because I'm always a time guy. I was talk about people's ages. They have so much potential, especially Angel Garza. When he burst into the scene, he had main event potential. Even when Andrade was coming back, was in a group with him, it was obvious that Angel for me had the bigger upside because he was more fluent on the microphone than Andrade was at the time. Andrade's come a long way, but the guy's got natural charisma. Humberto Carrillo's finding himself as a heel. You know, that dimpled face with some facial hair. You've got a heel that you want to punch in the face. They could potentially be tag team champions. I just hope we have character development and they're not just, number 2 and number 3 behind, Santos Escobar, who is incredible in the microphone, great at emoting. I recently listened to an episode he did with Wrestling with Freddie Prinze Jr.'s podcast, and he talked about how he went to LA to hone up on his acting skills, which helped him with his promos. So he goes to show you that this is a guy that's passionate about this.
Dedicated.
Yeah, it was dedicated. And I could tell, even when we watched NXT, when he had that feud going on with the Mafia family, with Tony D'Angelo, the way he emotes, it feels real. It doesn't feel like the hokey wrestling script, hey, say this. Santos got a high, he's turning 40 this year, but this guy's got so much potential, he can overcome that age limit and, become a big star. But I hope Joaquin Wilde, who went viral for that jump he did on the middle rope. I
thought they were going to do it again here somehow. I don't know how you would have done that.
No,
but
you could have done it. It's a tag team match. You could have done it. It's just that it's a shame that hasn't really propelled him past a certain point. But I really do hope that this feud take it next gear. Rey Mysterio potentially coming back to the Rumble as one of the surprises. We've yet to see Carlito versus Santos have a one-on-one match. And now we know that the new group has a new name. They're known as Legado World Order.
which is that's pretty cool.
That's what everyone wanted.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
snazzy name.
It's kind of like people wanting, street business. But you're not gonna get that allegedly, but that's a whole different,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
because the finish of this match as well was Carlito's music hits, and Santos stands up and he's like, all right, now here we go. And then he gets attacked from behind by Carlito. Carlito kind of runs him around ringside. They brawl into the crowd and they disappear. And this distracts Angel Garza, but not enough to cost him the match. He rolls up one of the others and then holds on to the rope to get the pin. He beats the other two. Sorry, Joaquin. Sorry, Cruz del Toro. You're not getting your win here. It's fine. If I had to book this show and I was told book this match, yeah, I would have the Lotharios win, but I think it's more just emblematic of how we got here. It didn't lead to many people caring, but a fine little match.
Do you want a 50-50 booking amongst the tag team?
No, not these two. I wouldn't do 50-50 booking between them. I do at this point.
It dilutes the.
Yeah,
the
I just think
Lotharios.
it makes the Lotharios look worse. I just would have spent the last year having Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro beating like anyone.
So basically, beating them means something.
Yeah, exactly. So after that first match, we had Carmelo Hayes backstage. My boy Mello. First time I've seen him on SmackDown. I'm so happy to be back. And he was talking about his run in the U.S. title tournament. He's saying blue looks good on him and everything. And then he starts to say he wants to get into the Royal Rumble. He kind of says like Royal, and he gets cut off by Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, who barge into the room and are like, oh, Nick Aldis, what kind of shit you running around here? What's going on? I'll take a win by forfeit. Ha 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 ha. They're being their cocky douchebag heels. And Carmelo Hayes is still sat there. Nick Aldis says, I'm conducting business. What do you want? And Carmelo gets up and they start beefing. And all of a sudden, Austin Theory versus Carmelo Hayes is set for later in the show. It was going to be Grayson Waller, but he's like, nah, I already wrestled. He didn't, though. But Austin Theory's good enough, so he'll wrestle later in the show. We'll get to it.
But before you go in the next part, this is related to what you just said. You just reminded me of something we didn't see tonight on SmackDown. So last week's SmackDown, Ashanti Diodonis went into Nick Aldis' office, and he said to him how he wants an opportunity on SmackDown. And Nick Aldis kind of gave like a pumped up rah-rah speech, was like, I know you got what it takes sort of thing, and let's see what we can do. No follow-up. That could have been a great opportunity to have Ashanti do something as well. Like it just reminded me like nothing happened, and I hope we do. If not, I'll be the only one that remembers this.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a recurring thing. No Ashanti this week. Like you know, especially a wrestler you never see on the show. You can't like all of a sudden reintroduce him and then next week. This ain't like the Unholy Alliance chicks that did a vignette and disappeared for a bit. But yeah, Ashanti Diodonis is missing, guys. So send that APB.
Yeah, we'll put his face on a milk carton or something.
And B-Fab. It seemed like she was potentially joining Bobby Lashley in the Street Profits, and nothing went there. And Bobby Lashley and Street Profits still don't have a name, even though potentially there's a rumor they're going to have a name. But at the moment, they still don't have a name.
We'll get to it.
Yes.
So that's one backstage segment. Then we have another backstage segment where Heyman is trying to recruit Carlito, and he shows up, and the LWO is walking around, and Carlito is leading the pack, and he's angry, and he wants to fight Santos Escobar, and Paul Heyman goes, Carlito! He's got an apple, and he's just like, oh, I don't want this to seem like, Adam tempting Eve with an apple or anything, haha, but, oh, how about you join the Bloodline? You look like you're ready for a fight. And he just says, I am ready for a fight, but I only want to fight Santos. And he walks off, and he comes back, he takes the apple and says, thank you, and walks away. And Paul says, the apple and the yes were a package deal. I thought this was a funny, cute little comedy segment.
Yeah, and it's good to see Carlito using segments, because one of his strong suits was his character work, which I feel like we haven't seen enough of.
One of the better comedic guys.
Yes,
he's got a very aloof attitude about him, and that's different from a lot of people. So you can, he's different when you write for him
because he's cool.
He's cool. Then backstage, we had Logan Paul. And Logan Paul was talking to the camera about what happened last week. He gets punched in the face by Kevin Owens, who's wearing a cast, and he's upset about it. He's like, oh, you can't do that. You cheater, pumpkin eater. That's what he called him. And he said there's going to be lawyers, there's going to be this and that, and blah, blah, blah. They're going to come face to face. We'll get to it. It's not that important. Then backstage, and this is where I was like, what in God's name's going on? Did we not fix this? And I know that some people perhaps did not enjoy as much when back in the good old days of Pete and I losing our minds during the pandemic at the poor pacing of SmackDown, where, you know, they'd show someone walking, getting ready for the ring before the SmackDown, before the commercial. Then they'd come back from a commercial with like a recap of something that happened last week that's unrelated to that. Mm-hmm. Then they'd do the entrance. Mm-hmm. Then they'd cut to a promo backstage that's also unrelated. Mm-hmm. Then they'd do a video package for the deal. Then they'd do another commercial. Then the other entrant would come out, and it'd be like sorted out.
I could have my lunch during the spacing.
That, like, everybody knows what we're talking about. Like, that would happen every single week forever. And it was all the -1s that we would talk about, all the little dings that would make SmackDown a horrible show. And for the most part, I have felt like those have been cleaned up.
Yeah.
Which is what I said when Triple H took over originally. I was just like, all the -1s, those little terrible pacing issues or whatever, I assume those are going to be fixed. Those are the sort of things that are just simple. You just fix the order of things on your friggin' run sheet, and all of a sudden you're good. This week they threw that out the window. I don't know why. And it wasn't necessarily so much like the pacing of it, although there were still, like, Bianca makes her entrance for the next match, and then we get this promo, and I was like, just other order, please. But 4 backstage segments in a row is ridiculous. This one, however, was the one that made me smile the most, so I will forgive. Because Butch and Tyler Bate are shown somewhere. I don't know. They're like in a coffee shop with a spotlight on them.
Yeah.
Or backstage in catering, conveniently spotlighted. I don't know where they were, but they were having a little coffee. A little tiny coffee was like that big. And for all you audio listeners out there, that big. And they just go back and forth about beating Pretty Deadly, and they're like, oh, it was good to see you, man, you know, friends for so long, and whatever. But Butch says, we gotta do our own things. You know, you, me, that was in the past. And the Brawling Brutes, that was in the past. Forge my own way, whatever. And Bate just says, mate, you're lost. You need to remember what was said to you in Blackpool. You need to know what your name is. And you just get a long shot of Butch as he kind of slowly more and more develops this snarl as the teeth start to show right as they cut to black. God damn it. He's going to come out in the Royal Rumble as Pete Dunne, and I'm going to nut.
I would only nut if it has his CFO's theme, because that theme is a banger.
It's a good theme.
The Death Rebel. Listen, I'm a Death Rebel apologist, but
I know. I had to sit here. I let you go. I'm not gonna let you be a Death Rebel apologist sat next to me next time.
No. Listen, I have ears. Listen, when they have crap songs, I admit it. I'm not. The thing about me, when I'm a fan of someone, I also tell you. I also say when it's crap. That's a good thing about being a fan, is when you see something you like. If you don't like, you're like, oh, it wasn't as good as the other one, or you can do better. Their Pete Dunne theme was so terrible. Their Shayna Baszler theme is so confused. Mm-hmm. It starts off one way and it doesn't know where to go. And I can listen. I know they're not perfect, but I just didn't like CFOs having ringtone themes, that 30-second themes, and then remix it. But the Pete Dunne theme was one of the rare themes that actually had a beginning, a middle, a hook, a guitar part, and it went back into a loop, but it worked for what it was. That song used to give me chills, especially when you used to get the fist down to the cheeks, and when that song would hit, and oh my gosh, I want the original. If KO can keep his theme, if Sami Zayn can get his theme back, you better give the Bruiserweight his classic NXT theme. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's weird. They pick and choose who they give songs to. Shelton Benjamin suffered at the hands of it. He had 2 nondescript theme songs where Ain't No Stopping Me is right there for him. So Pete Dunne needs his original theme. So I can see him do this. Hands up to the cheeks and snarl. Yeah, it's coming back, baby. Oh, dun, dun, dun. Man, that's a Death Rebel version.
No, not
dun,
doing
dun, dun. Man.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. No, I am making a decision.
Yes, you
personally,
are.
right here, to revert back to where I was a year and a half ago or so. And that being that I have an agenda to push.
What is the agenda?
The agenda has been, and once again will be, WrestleMania, Gunther loses the Intercontinental title to Pete Dunne.
Ooh, I don't. The thing is, not to be a Debbie Downer.
This is my agenda because I have given up on Sheamus being healthy and coming back.
What? He's coming back to the Rumble, no?
I don't know. If he does, great. Then that'll happen. But I'm operating under the assumption that he's not there and isn't.
He is. The whole point. Listen, I assume he's coming back. He's going to Raw. That all of this. Think about it. If Sheamus was coming back, he's like coming home. Where's all my mates gone? What do you mean? NXT. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, I assume he's going to Raw. He's gonna come back at the Rumble. If he, I don't like saying the name. It's not called Lobster Head, but people may want Lobster Head. Imagine the pop.
I am not that guy.
Yeah,
I hate that song.
You don't like that song?
It doesn't have a drop. They jump you in right to the middle of the song.
Wait, but then have you heard the original version? Have you heard the whole version of the song? It takes a long time to get to the drop. That's why they just go straight to the drop. It goes to. Then
it's a bad song. Then it's a song you shouldn't use for a wrestling theme.
Sheamus lost your head, and careless man nigga wind up dead. Too many lies. Oh, these all no.
Hate it.
The song is great.
Hate it.
It made me feel Irish for a bit. My partner's half Irish, so that helps.
Hate it.
The song is great, and the guy sings his heart out. I think his name is Sean Jancy or something like that. He sings his bloody heart out with that song, and he goes, "Oh, these words of truth, and I'll make you believe." Oh, and the guitar and the swell, and Jim Johnson's guitar solo, it just smacks. It hits. That song hits hard. I like. Listen, I like the song that he has now too, because it makes me want to kick people in the face. That's what I like about the song. It makes me want to go, fella, spotlight on my chest, 10 beats of the Baron and bro kick. I like that song. But listen, his OG song, lovely vocal, so beautiful. Oh my days, what's happened to your musical taste?
Don't like Lobster Head. What can I say?
It's not called Lobster Head. You guys are killing me with that
listen,
song.
if Sheamus comes back, yes, I'll revert back once again. Sheamus should win the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, but if he's not going to, I need it to be Pete Dunne.
I am a triple threat pervert, so put in Chad Gable in there and let's do another triple threat match where,
Sure.
Sheamus can win by pinning Gable, so that way Gunther can say, "You'll not beat me. I'm the greatest champion of all time."
Listen, whoever is taking the title off of Gunther has to pin him.
It's true. Then they have to, because the only way Sheamus can retire is by winning. It's almost like he can't retire until he gets the Intercontinental title. So that's why I said Gable's got great stories. It's a shame that they showed his daughter, who looked like Gable circa NXT with a headband, which I thought was cute. You can't show a girl crying as a father. You can't show his daughter crying and for him to have retribution. What kind of sick perverts are you guys? Sickos. Sick.
Oh, sad. I'll show you beyond the mat sometime. Those
crap!
Those crying kids don't get they don't get the happy ending half the time. Anyway, we'll move on
swiftly
because there are a few more matches to talk about here on this show. Because the next match was Bianca Belair versus Bayley. Now, this is a match we have seen a number of times in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the recurring feud for Bianca Belair and her title reigns. So this match, again, had positives and negatives. The negatives being the crowd didn't seem to care very much. And I think it didn't affect... How do I say this? The first match, they didn't take time out of their match to try and get the crowd. They just didn't have the crowd. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas this match, they took time a few times to kind of stop and go, "Come on, guys." Something like that, which again, I don't blame them for. Get into the match crowd. Why did you pay to be there? But it was more noticeable in this match because you were able to see it, sort of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That being said, I did think they had the crowd a lot better than the opener. By the end, it just took a while to get there. So there were some fun spots in this match. We'll get to the positives of it because I did enjoy this match. I thought they worked well together. They did some fun stuff. And then they did some creative spots, which sometimes I've found when I'm watching like some of Bayley's matches, they're creative, but it's like the sticks in the cell match where it's like it sort of worked, but it was like kind of contrived. So I'm always a little bit weary about some of the spots. Are they too creative for their own good? This time, here's just a creative, fun spot where she tied Bianca Belair's braid to the bottom rope, which we've seen happen a million times. But this time, Bianca went and then laid out, stretched back, and used her own braid as like a tripwire to trip Bayley into the bottom turnbuckle. I thought that was smart.
Yeah.
Cool little spot. I've seen Bianca's braid used a bunch of different ways. I've not seen that before. That was cool. So that was good. And then I really liked the finish as well, because the finish is one that we have seen time and time again with a twist, because this seemed like every other heel faction finish, like we've seen a million times. Bianca gets sent out to the outside, and Bayley then grabs the ref and he's like, oh, my eye or something. And there are 4 members of Damage Control on the outside, and none of them do anything. They just stare at Bianca, and Bianca kind of stares at them. They all stare at the ref. Bianca gets back up, gets in the ring, and soon after hits the KOD on Bayley and gets the win. And she gets the thing. She's like, yeah! And she goes to the back. And then next, after the commercial, we have Bayley going to Dakota and being like, what was that? Why didn't you guys help? And he was like, hey, man, the referee was looking right at us. You don't want to get DQ'd, do you?
No.
And it's like, okay, but like, you know, help. And they're just like, we just thought that you could beat Bianca on your own. You know, you're going to win the Royal Rumble on your own? Yeah. And then they all kind of like walk away and Bayley looks sad. And I really liked this finish. I thought it was really neat. Just because, again, we've seen like, hey, they get thrown, they get roughed up, thrown back inside, binned, whatever. It's a cliche. And so when you invert the cliche, it's then new again. Good stuff. They go to this finish, and now, oh, it's so much more interesting. Another week in to Bianca and Bayley and this whole Damage Control thing, and we don't know exactly when the split's going to be. And it's maybe not as intriguing as, like, you know, Sami Zayn in the Bloodline, which is a very high bar, which I don't feel the need to compare it to. But in terms of, like, there's someone who is loved by the audience in a heel faction that's going to get got at some point, and we're waiting to see when it's going to happen. They're kind of similar in that respect. We're still waiting to see when Bayley's going to get that happen to her. This is another very interesting thing that tides us over to make us think, maybe it's going to happen on the next show or the show after that. Do you think Bayley's going to win the Royal Rumble?
I have a prediction. Someone with the name B is going to win the Royal Rumble. So it's up to you to decide. Is it Becky? Is it Bayley? Or the offshot could be Bianca, but I don't think it's going to be Bianca.
Or Banks? I don't think that.
I like you have to add. You know, it was someone with a B in their first name. And their first name's going to win. I am of 2 minds about who's going to win. I, in the beginning, thought that the whole point of this storyline was going to lead to Bayley winning the Rumble and facing Io Sky for the title at WrestleMania. I still think it's going to be Bayley and Io Sky at WrestleMania, but don't forget that the Elimination Chamber is also an option. I think, in terms of accolades, Becky's won before.
Yes.
She doesn't need to do it twice. They could, you know. I don't know if she's the first. As a female,
She would be the first 2-time female winner.
Fact checker. Anyway, yes, that would be an accolade in itself. But a great accolade for Becky would be to win an Elimination Chamber because she hasn't done that yet. So it would be another thing to add in, like Asuka's. Asuka's like won every single match that is to do with number 1 contendership for titles. So it would be great for her to do that. I want it to be Bayley because I feel like since Bayley's been back from her knee injury, she hasn't been Bayley of old. It tends to happen to a lot of wrestlers where when you come back from like near career-threatening injury, you either regress or change how you wrestle in the ring. Since her great matches from when she came back with Bianca, she hasn't really been wrestling at like the main event level. She's been wrestling at TV match levels, if that makes sense. She doesn't get to 2nd or 3rd gear. which she does have. Because it's been a while, it's easy to condition yourself that Bayley's not that person anymore because she just wrestled TV style matches, which is a few minutes. And outside doing the roast plant and certain moves, you can barely say her movesets anymore because she doesn't really. The elbow drop was great because it's been a while since she's done that. What I'm trying to say is I hope that her winning the Royal Rumble is the beginning of her being the Bayley that we know. She's a great worker, but I feel like the heel character started to diminish what she's good for in the ring. Because when you're a heel, you kind of play to the heel side and not show all your flashy moves, or you don't wrestle to get cheered, if that makes sense. But it's been a while. I hope she can get back to that level. Her and Io Sky on paper could be great, but it's been a while. I feel like it's nearly been to like nearly 2 years since we've seen like a great Bayley match, if that makes sense. So for a lot of people, there's allegations, not by me, allegations that she's kind of washed. But I know she's not. It's just like she just wrestles wherever, you know. She's been losing a lot as well. So it's like she's become the eater of pins of that group. So to answer your long-winded, you asked me a question, I went long-winded with it. Someone said it would be ha if Dakota's in a match and she eliminates Bayley. That could be the option, but I hope Bayley wins because that will take the storyline to the next level of who she's gonna pick. We assume it's gonna be Rhea, but we know in her heart she's gonna go with Io because she knows there's a pit in her stomach that something's not right with Damage Control, and she doesn't have control of the group.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do think it comes down to that. If I had to pick right now, I think Bayley wins the Royal Rumble. I think it makes a lot of sense storyline-wise with how they're kind of laying everything out. You can kind of do what people wanted them to do with Sami Zayn winning the Royal Rumble last year that they just were never going to do. And it is another, like, it's another horsewoman that you can put on the list of former Royal Rumble winners.
Bingo.
And granted, like, we're a number of years into doing women's Rumbles now, but we are still only, like, 6 or 7 years in. And you can only benefit from making that list of winners even better with a long list of great wrestlers who are varied and all have wonderful accomplishments and such. And Bayley is somebody that I think should be on that list and isn't yet.
As well. She's been selfless with how much she's been giving as well, other talents. I feel like it's time for her to be a bit greedy. You know, she needs to stake her claim as one of the best in the group. Because I feel like it's been a while to the point where there's, again, it's kind of like recency bias. People would just go, what have you done for me lately? Not forgetting her body catalog of great wrestling, how her match with Sasha Banks in NXT changed the game in North America and everywhere. So, yeah.
Yeah. Give Bayley her flowers. Not that anybody isn't, but do it anyway.
And Bayley's hot.
All right.
Hashtag Bayley's hot, if you remember that. Hashtag.
So, back in the ring now, we have Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, still currently unnamed, and they're very angry about getting jumped by Karrion Kross in the Office of Pain. Bobby cuts what I did not think was a particularly good promo. It was like the words were fine, but he's a dry promo. What do you want me to say?
He is very clunky as a promo. That's the best way to describe it. He can be very clunky.
I like Bobby Lashley. I am forgiving of his faults, but like I'm a reviewer on a wrestling show and he did a wrestling promo and it was dry. I will leave it at that. But he said like, AOP, get your asses out here right now. Let's fight. We're not the kind of guys that are gonna, attack you from behind. If we've got a problem, we'll walk right to the ring and fight. And then instead of having a fight, they are shown a video package from Karrion Kross. And he's talking with Scarlett, and he's talking about how he's got two of the most devastating men that have ever walked the earth in the Office of Pain. I always thought their names were Akam and Razor.
Yeah.
He said both of those names like weird.
Akam and Razor?
Yeah, it was bizarre. He called them like Occam.
Obviously, he's phonetically.
I get it. And also, I forget what the other one was. It doesn't matter. He said the name's weird.
This is Kurt Angle saying Azuka.
Yeah. Umanga.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So that's basically it. They leave it at that. He says that Paul Ellering's one of the most sadistic men that has ever walked the earth as well. And together they are going to be known as the Final Testament. That's the end. That's the end of that. And, yeah, all right. Listen.
Poor Ellering.
Sure.
Have you not seen that? He's just had that one facial expression since been back. It's just me. I live for it. He almost looks like the Uncle Salamanca guy from Breaking Bad.
That's rude.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ring that bell, baby. Anyway. Jesus Christ.
Hector Salamanca.
So we've talked about this, and we've gone long on a few things already. I don't have a ton to say about Karrion Kross, but I will say it's a new year. It's a new me. It's a new presentation for Karrion Kross. I will give this group a chance.
Yeah.
This is it. You've got until November, Sat.
I do. So me and Tempest made a deal back in November because I've been a Karrion Kross apologist. I'm an apologist for a lot of people. It's almost become like my job. It's my go-to thing. Apologize for people that, doesn't have a lot of love from the fan base. Yes, I said if Karrion Kross does not get over with the fans, that he does not become an integral part. Because the thing about Karrion Kross at the moment is you can take him off TV and you wouldn't really miss him because he hasn't been a consistent presence on TV. So if Karrion Kross becomes a consistent presence on TV, adds something of value to TV and gets over with his group, I finally win, as in all the years of defending Karrion Kross has paid off. If Karrion Kross flops again this year, the year of 2024, November 2024, if Karrion Kross is not doing anything meaningful, if he's still in the same spot he was last year, I said to Tempest, I'll come up here in front of everyone who watches the SmackDown review show, in front of this lovely man here and say, Karrion Kross is a dud, write him off. I'll say it then. But until then, I've got to November, and guess what? The group has their name before Lashley and Profits.
That's
final
crazy.
Testament. The final testament. And I like it because authors are pain. They're authors. They write books. It's a testament because Karrion Kross likes spooky, esoteric things. So the name goes. It's much better than the Final Prayer, which Pete thought that potentially was the name. I was like, no, Final Prayer does not work as a name. It works as a finisher because I think that's what his new finisher is called, the convoluted move. I think it's called the Final Prayer, but they're called the Final Testament, and I love it. And yeah, I like it. I like it. So it's between the Final Testament and Undisputed Kingdom over in AEW. Which one of them is going to make the most impact? Two new groups.
Well, they're arriving at the same time, so we will see. And backstage after this, we had Bobby Lashley still... Oh, hang on a moment. No, that's right. Because backstage, Paul Heyman is still trying his best. And he didn't get any luck with Carlito. So first he tries his hand with Pretty Deadly. Or more accurately, they tried their hand with him. They come up to him and they're like, Lord Heyman, my lord, wise man, how do you do? We are the best tag team on SmackDown. We will help you. And he's like, all right. Only one of y'all can fill the spot, right? And they're like, oh, actually, I forgot I had that thing tonight. Oh, dreadful. If only this had come up sooner. And they walk off. And Paul Heyman's like, okay.
And also there's a mention of who were in the matches. I think where it is they have a codependency. So like, I can't do this match without you. I think if they're both in a match, I'll be like, yeah, sure. But it's just like one of us without the other.
Yeah.
Against whom I've got a hair appointment or something, I just to clean my teeth.
So we went from that straight into Bobby Lashley walking around backstage with the rest of the Street Profits. And Paul Heyman approaches him and says, Bobby, we've been friends for a long, long time. OVW connection and all that.
He knows his stuff. I was going to say that. Master Blaster Lashley.
Master Blaster. And he's like, listen, you got to let off some steam. I can't believe what's happened to you with AOP and Karrion Kross. It's just awful. Why don't you let off some of that steam in the main event? You can come wrestle, beat up Randy Orton, AJ Styles in LA Knight. You beat them up, all good. As a show of good faith, years of friendship. And he says, yeah, Paul, I have known you a long time. The only time I want to be in the ring with the Bloodline is when I'm standing across from Roman Reigns. And he walks off. And I swear to God, if this reign lasts long enough to get that match, I will quit my job. I would like to see it, but I would have liked to have seen it. It's too late now. End of the reign. Anyway, would have been a perfect payback match, Fastlane match. Why doesn't Roman work on pay-per-view? I don't know.
Let's not go there.
Ashley Simpson can't rap. I demand justice.
Ashley Simpson can't rap.
Anywho.
That was random, but I love it. I live for it. I'm a random guy, so yeah.
Carmelo Hayes versus Austin Theory is next. And this is a trickier one to talk about because it's hard to review this match under the scope of just a normal wrestling match and such, because we had injury trouble here, which is very unfortunate, because I was very ready and excited to come on this podcast and be like, Carmelo Hayes, and I still will and everything. It just doesn't feel like the week, because they have the match, and I think they're doing a really good little job here. Carmelo Hayes is getting a better reaction than most things have gotten on the show to this point, which is maybe a little surprising to me, given how new he is, but I also know how good he is, so I'm not surprised he could garner that reaction, but there's not been the most,
show.
Not been the most give and take of a crowd so far, but he's hitting his moves with precision and quickness. He hit his springboard twisting clothesline, and it was like sharp, and he followed that up right into a La Mystica, which Corey Graves just called a face buster because he's dumb, and then, unfortunately, the match had to end because Carmelo Hayes, too many C names, he ends up sat on the top turnbuckle. And Austin Theory goes for his, leaping...
Sit out.
It's so many words. Leaping, top rope, sit out, Spanish fly.
Or avalanche, Spanish fly.
Springboard, Spanish fly. And... They bounce once and they kind of just jumble and then they fall and they land. And Austin Theory lands on his head and it's ugly and it's gruesome and I hope he's all right. And the referee just goes over and he gives up the X and they wave the match off. And it's a damn shame because this was gearing up to be by far the best match on the show, I thought. And then it just ended. You hate to see anything like that happen in general, but... much less when Carmelo Hayes is looking to get something new going. That's pretty exciting. And, you lose that kind of spark of momentum. When people think about this match, they'll think about this as opposed to the good things and all that sort. So it's really disappointing. It's a shame.
Shout out to the ref, though. It's just been 2 weeks in a row where the referee has stopped the match when they've seen clearly that wrestlers are knocked out. So shout out to WWE on their training protocols with referees.
Yeah, so that's really all there is to it. I don't know if you have any other thoughts about the match itself. I'm really excited to see Carmelo Hayes. Him being on SmackDown makes up for, a lot.
What Carmelo Hayes has done in his 2 showing is what we assumed Cameron Grimes would do. Remember?
Sure.
Because it comes to a point where people forget how good Cameron Grimes is. Another wrestler who's able to have that style of match. Because, when Dragon Lee's back, what I'm saying? The mid-card scene on SmackDown could low-key be incredible with the amount of great young wrestlers coming up from NXT. Austin Theory is allowed to wrestle like Austin Theory. And by now, I fear that move, if an old person was back in charge, it would be on the banned list. So I don't know if the sit-out avalanche Spanish fly might get taken off because of that whole situation when their heads collided and they both landed on their necks. But yeah, Carmelo Hayes, do you see this as a soft call up, or do you? Because well,
we'll see. It's always the deal where it's a soft call up until they just decide to keep him.
Well, then that's what I meant. That is a soft call-up. It's kind of like we haven't done the whole vignette and pumps and circles. We slowly implemented you in and that. Because Dragon Lee was I don't know, Dragon Lee did get a vignette. And then Carmelo did get a vignette. But it's not like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like...
arrives next week.
Yeah.
We're not having that.
He's had more matches than the guys that did get cast on SmackDown and Raw. The Von Wagner and... I've got the other
Jones.
Yes, of the world.
Yeah. So we'll see. I hope for a much better showing all around, much better circumstances on next week's show. But Carmelo Hayes, push that guy to the moon. I've been saying that. That's a world champion.
As a baby face or as a heel?
Either way, do whatever you got to do first. I don't care. This guy's good enough to do both and make them both work.
Sign off his heel because we know that's where the storyline with Trick Williams was going. He did attack him. Let's establish that. Turn him back heel because that's how got him over in the first place. People love the heel. Let him earn his stripes. That's what LA Knight wanted. That's why they wanted to turn babyface. Let's see what I can do first before you cheer for me. Don't cheer for me prematurely. Yes. I hope we see him.
Yeah, I agree. And then we had one last backstage Bloodline segment where Jimmy's not too happy because Jimmy's like, all right, wise man, who you got? And Paul Heyman's like, No one is worthy of teaming with the Bloodline. You two are gonna go out there, Jimmy and Solo, and you're gonna beat them. And you know, he's like, I'm not worried. Solo says, I'm not worried. Jimmy goes, I'm not worried either then. Let's go get it. They go. Oh my God.
They go get him.
They got me.
No yeet.
No yeet. Whatever that means. And
yeeting, chucking, something. It's like he yeeted him across the room. No?
Yeah.
Yeah. No yeet is no chucking. I don't know.
I don't know what the youth are saying these days.
Yeet.
Yeet.
Ski.
This bitch empty.
Yeet. Ski
Look,
yeet.
I was around for Vine. Anyway, this led to the main event. Because our main event was indeed all of Roman's challengers against the two members of the Bloodline, Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. But in the middle of the first entrance, Randy Orton gets taken out. And maybe this is just like, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything more to it than that. It just keeps Randy Orton's bump card low, I suppose.
Ooh.
You know, I don't think that's like a decision for him.
You're suspicious.
Not really. I think this is just how they do, because it does make more sense to then do that as heels, because like if they work this as a handicap match, then the psychology's off and the babyface team has the advantage, and you don't want to do that. That's bad. So yeah, you have him have them take out Randy Orton.
Yes.
Of the three choices, he's the best choice because you've got LA Knight and AJ Styles to have beef within the match and cause dissension. So at least logically, it also makes sense. That is the guy that you would take out if it had to be one of the three, because the other two will take each other out. And then it's a fair fight, quote unquote, fair fight.
Look at that. He sorted in the mathematics of the match. Go you. Like, if it's Paul Heyman's idea, congratulations, Paul. You came up with a good game plan.
Yeah, it was a good game plan. If they marked this out Dangerous Alliance style outside the War Games thing with the whiteboard or whatever, it would have worked. The only problem is it didn't work because Randy Orton, you didn't kill him. You didn't cut the head off of the snake.
Ooh.
It nearly worked because this match went back and forth. It was your main event match. They shine your heat, etc. But the turning point of the match, the real crux here, was LA Knight and AJ Styles not being on the same page. And then finally, when AJ Styles desperately needed to make a tag, very interestingly, and this was a little nugget of this match that I did enjoy, LA Knight does not get pulled off the apron by Solo Sikoa. He jumps off the apron to deal with Solo Sikoa. And granted, I think that's like that's a very logical thing to do, because if you don't, you're just going to be attacked 1 second later. But just the thing that his decision was to jump off, I like that. I like somehow that makes AJ Styles just that much more sympathetic. And it might not mean anything to anyone, but it means this match was like 1% better to me. And you know what? I'll take it. You need every little bit. Every little bit counts. So this causes more dissension between AJ Styles and LA Knight, because sure enough, LA Knight's not on the apron, and AJ Styles goes for the tag, and he's like, ah!
Yeah.
So he then goes back, he starts fighting Jimmy a little bit more. And LA Knight takes out Solo, and he's like, all right, give me the tag. He's like, where were you? He's like, I was fighting him. He was going to attack me. He's like, oh, I don't care. Well, give me the tag. No. And this looks like it's going to lead to their loss, but unfortunately for the Bloodline, Randy Orton came back out, hit an RKO, and got the win. Easy peasy.
Lemon squeezy.
You know, it was again, a competently booked but fairly simple main event, you know. And after the match, they just beat down the Bloodline real bad, and everybody hit a finisher on the Bloodline, and then they put Solo Sikoa through the announce table.
With the shield bomb.
Yeah. So that was SmackDown. And I'll get your thoughts from the main event in just a moment.
No problem.
As well. But this was a really interesting thing, because I didn't notice it almost until like afterwards, because I don't know, my brain is still a little fuzzy from the last month. And I have to remind myself that the next pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
And this was not a show that felt like it was building for the Royal Rumble.
Not besides that the Bayley chat about it. No.
That was about it. But even still, that was like a throwaway line backstage, you know? This felt like a, middle of the month kind of filler episode building to a B pay-per-view, like a Fastlane or a Payback or something like that.
Yes, sir.
And it was fine. It's unfortunate that I think the best match on the show had its finish ruined by an injury. But there just wasn't a lot else on this show.
No.
Like, this was just a very by-the-numbers episode of SmackDown. You'll get your matches. Some of them were fine. That's about it. It's just like the Bloodline needs to find a partner. They couldn't find a partner. They lost. It almost felt like a house show in that sense. It felt that's the sort of thing that would happen on a house show. Like, happy ending, babyface win, send the crowd home happy. Which I'm not opposed to in general.
Yeah.
But when it's Royal Rumble season, I don't know. I expect somebody in some match to like throw someone over the top rope or point at a sign or, declare for a match or something like that.
During the history of Royal Rumbles, as you're an historian, this is...
Well, this podcast is only gone for an hour and 5. Go on. Give me a whole history.
I'm not going to do a history. No. I'm just asking, would you have preferred if they did Rumble qualifying matches like they used to do sometimes?
I always will be in preference of qualifying matches.
Really?
100%. Make something need to be qualified for. It means more.
Because I remember there was a pushback on the fact that you had some wrestlers saying, I declare I'm in the Rumble, and others, you can't declare to be in the Rumble, you have to win. There used to be that whole thing where, like, why can he declare and the others can't, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like probably that's why they dropped it, I don't know. But yeah, I think...
No, I think it was just because their roster got thin. They fired half of them in 2008.
Yeah.
All the guys, like the Highlanders and... all those guys that were losing the qualifying matches, all of a sudden you didn't have wrestlers to lose qualifying matches.
True.
And then when you did, you made the Rumble have 40 people in it.
40 man
qualifying matches, I'm telling you. But go on.
Yeah. You're saying that if they had qualifying matches, it would have felt like Rumble season.
Yeah.
That's what you're missing, right? You're missing
absolutely.
the banner. Like, it's Rumble season, Rumble qualifying matches, the Battle Royal, who gets us to this spot, or last chance Battle Royal, Tozawa wins, he's in the Rumble.
Yeah.
You're missing that kind of atmosphere, right?
Just anything. Anything to make me... It's Royal Rumble season. I want to be the most excited I'm going to be about wrestling all year. And I will be. Granted, it's still a couple weeks away, and I'll get there. But, we're 2 weeks away from the Royal Rumble. I want to be losing my mind over, oh, my God, did you see the show built to the Rumble? I'm so excited. And I just didn't get that on this show.
Now I'm with you. And to go off the main event, I do like it was a payoff. And like you said, in terms of wrestling psychology, it makes sense to even the playing field and have the heels to have some sort of advantage. And then when Randy Orton came back halfway through to win the match, I like the fact that you still had LA Knight and AJ Styles trying to one-up each other, and they each did a finisher on Solo Sikoa. And then Randy Orton was like, okay, I'll join in the fun, RKO. And then when they took him outside of the Shield Bomb, I'm like, I wonder if they're subconsciously sending a message to Roman Reigns. And of course, Paul ends the show with, Roman Reigns. It's like, what? You're going to give him the bad news? You know what's going to happen. You're going to get browbeaten, and you're going to, cower down as per usual. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is, in their mind, that was a hook. What's going to happen next week?
I see Paul Heyman say call Roman Reigns on every show. It very rarely has the consequences that I want it to. And it's not a good enough hook for Royal Rumble season, in my opinion. So in my edited review, I gave this show a 2 out of 5. I think that's probably still right. There were a lot of little things that I really enjoyed on this show. More just little character moments, but I'm not going to give this show a higher rating because Pete Dunne might be being Pete Dunne again.
Would you say that the segments is what carried the show besides the 1 or 2 matches you did enjoy?
I don't even know because there were so many backstage segments and I was getting frustrated at a point with 4 of them in a row where I was like, God damn, okay, space them out a little bit. But, yeah, I just think it was kind of a show with just not a lot going on. And I think that's just, again, what happens when your U.S. champion's not on the show and your world champion's not on the show, and you don't have tag champions to be on the show either, and the women's tag champions are also not on the show! There's just, there's a lot of problems with SmackDown in that regard. And I don't think it leaves it looking in a good light when you're a couple weeks out from a pay-per-view and you want to build, but... the bodies are missing, the main important ones that people are kind of focused on. But what, hey? Let us know what you thought about that SmackDown in the comments down below. Make sure, of course, that you like this video and subscribe to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel if you haven't already. And in the meantime, before we go, we have some very special shout-outs to give as well, because these are our $25 and above Pledgehammers over on Patreon. That is patreon.com/WrestleTalk, where you can get your own custom wrestling nickname read out on a show just like this. So a big thank you to Peter Fiber Brantuas. Yeah.
Probably better than Kyle Philip O'Reilly.
Yeah. The man who wears the gold. The man recognized by SWAF Nation International as the 24/7 champion. Our legend. Yeah.
Raw brand ambassador, Redman 2490.
Yeah. Reese Cook, what the Rock is smelling. Yeah.
Mr. Money Bags Rich Holt.
Yeah. Burley Rob Burwell. Yeah.
Can you do this one? Because I want to do the next one.
Daylight Robbery Rob James. Yeah.
I screwed myself over. I was right. Okay, can I do the next two?
Yo, Adrian.
Rocky.
Yeah.
Let me do this. The Farm General Roman Dietrich.
Very good. I believe it's Dietrich, if I'm not mistaken.
The movie actress Marlena Dietrich.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let us know,
you know
Roman.
What? Yeah, let us know because we're fighting over this. The Farm General. Come on.
Yeah. Ross, Pooper, Scooper, Cooper. Yeah.
The man with his scoops. Sean.
Yeah. Thank you very much to all of our Pledgehammers, but especially to our $25 and above Pledgehammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. If you want to get your own custom wrestling nickname read out on a show just like this, make sure you subscribe at the $25 and above tier, where you will also find a new exclusive edition of Survival Series, exclusive to Patreon, that being trying to name every single Royal Rumble winner in reverse chronological order.
Huh?
Again, there's the Thunderdome edition. I am not going to take responsibility for any rules, decisions. I learned my lesson last year. You saw how angry all of them got. We'll see if they get angry as well. Thank you very much, Sat. I'm glad to be back.
Guys,
House of the Black Mask.
House of the Black Mask, House of the Checkered Shirts. It's been incredible. Please join us again next Sat-E Day for the SmackDown Review Podcast. He's been Tempest. I've been Sat-E. The house always wins. It does. Jonah Jam.
You were doing so well with that side off and you kept going. Thank you. We'll see you next week.